All right, we are live for the 81st episode of the
Let's
Let's
go
go.
podcast. Whoa, Shlomo getting involved. We we were so antsy that we haven't put out a podcast in so long that we're putting out two in one day. It's very impressive, but we do what we got to do for our people, for our players. We got a Titan League podcast that we are putting out, and right now we have the pleasure of having for the second person, same day for the second time, Shlomo Ross on the podcast. We love Shlomo. He's an awesome personality, a great guy, a good friend, and a tremendous asset to the HSL. We really appreciate him. Shlomo is repping the Jules by DK Hungry Hippos, who are battling it out this week for a finish of anywhere from I think the 1 to the 3 seed, if I'm not mistaken,
Four.
but maybe the 2 or 3.
1 to 4.
1 to 4. Very impressive. I'm not holding as much as I should be in the legacy. We have a lot going on, but I'm holding enough, and hopefully we'll be able to clear a lot up for everyone watching. Dave, take this away.
Well, I made a mistake for a second there. It's actually his third visit to the podcast. He was on.
Right. I wasn't there for one, right?
I don't know about that.
There was one.
Didn't I miss one?
I was solo, and then also with Brian in a different one.
He was with Brian.
I think I missed the one with you and Brian. I'm pretty sure I wasn't on that one.
So the one with Brian, it's funny. I made a joke in the chat the other day where you said you or Brian said you're still not over that loss to the Robins. I said I'm not either, and you laughed, but I'm not joking. I'm not over that loss to the Robins. That would have been such an amazing upset. Also, not that the Robins aren't good guys, but the Robins are the Robins. There aren't too many outsiders rooting for the Robins. Nobody's like, I want the Robins to win. The way I don't think anybody this year is like rooting for Gordon Companies in the A-League. Is anybody like rooting for Gordon Companies? I don't know. They won 2 championships in a row. So I still am not over that. But we had Brian and Shlomo on after that loss to go over the game. One of the best playoff games that happened last year, unfortunately. But it's good to have you back. How are you?
I'm doing well. Would be better if we could have beat the Black Sox on Sunday, but
I wasn't going to bring it up.
Pretty well.
While you're here, though, Avi's going to be releasing this week's power rankings. So, we'll see how far maybe you guys are back in 7. Avi, could a playoff team be under a team that is
eliminated?
That is eliminated?
You never know.
After our 2 losses, we deserve to be 7. Maybe Avi was on something preseason.
Wait, what was your other loss?
You never know.
To MS.
The Grasshoppers.
Oh, right. Oh, man.
But by the way, breaking news: the Grasshoppers are getting a win this week due to a forfeit from the Essen Poppers. An unfortunate forfeit.
It's interesting. Joey Katz will be mad at me for saying this, but he won't be mad at me. No, I don't know why I'll say that. Maybe he would be mad at me, but I think Essen could beat Andy's Kitchen. I think Essen could beat my team also. They have some dysfunction, but they also have a lot of talented players. And these games can go either way. They're not a team that you're beating 20-0. I know some teams beat up on them possibly, but they weren't super lopsided games. So
they had a couple of outfield issues. They had a couple of outfield issues. And they had a couple of personnel issues in which guys weren't showing up to games who originally said they were going to show up. From what I understand from speaking with Donnie Mazeroski, is the reason why they played very poorly this season. How does it affect the league by them forfeiting to the Rumble Ponies? How does that affect things?
Shlomo, when I post, can you see what I just posted? You didn't see that? Show on stream. You guys don't see it? That says Gershon Brooklyn. We were rooting for you guys to beat the Black Sox. You don't see that. Oh, no. Only I see that. Okay. I'll read them out. Sorry, Shlomo. Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
But for ranking like the standings, so the last 2 spots were gonna be the Addictive Ads and Grasshoppers. And
could that have swapped? Could Addictive Ads have gotten ahead of the Grasshoppers?
Probably, actually, because
I said Rumble Ponies. Wow.
5.
So I haven't done all my papers in front of me. I said Rumble Ponies instead of Grasshoppers. I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. Yeah,
maybe they should have stuck with the Rumble Ponies.
Donnie and Zev are looking through the screen right now, pulling their hairs out for that 13 seconds that I was saying Rumble Ponies and not Grasshoppers. I apologize. Okay, so that's breaking news. Anyways, let's get talking about this week. We got a lot of
No. We're not talking about this week. We're talking about
not talking about this week.
Jules by DK, Hungry Hippos. What the heck? You guys played sloppy last week. I mean, we played sloppy too, but it was like That was a bad game of baseball. That was a bad
So
game of baseball. How many earned runs
yeah,
did you guys give up?
not a lot.
Not a lot. And we scored
And
12 times.
and any of the runs that, like, a lot of the runs that we gave up, even if they were earned, there were plays that normally we should have made. Um, I'm not an excuse guy, so I'm not going to blame my ankle for forcing me to play right field or anything. But that was one thing.
Yeah, I saw you in right field. I was wondering what was going on.
I was wondering
Yeah,
also.
I didn't want to. I had hurt my ankle playing softball a week earlier, so um, I didn't want to risk damaging it more. So I ended up in right field. But I'm not an excuse guy, so I'm not going to make that excuse. Um, but
Well, your
yeah,
left
we
fielder, no, I mean, I'm not going to mention his name. I don't even know his name. Your left fielder, he really shit the bed there for a minute, didn't he?
he should have been playing a little bit more shallow. It was there were a few plays that really should have been made. We had a last minute, but one of our players last minute had a back injury, so he couldn't play.
Who was that? Who
And
had a back
Easy was
injury?
Malik, so he didn't. That's why he
Mm.
wasn't by the game.
Is he out for the
Uh,
playoffs?
I'm hoping that he's in this week. I have to check the chat to see if he responded, but I'm hoping that he's in this week.
It's a big time
Easy was
loss.
Easy was planning on being was already planning on missing that game, so that was the one game that he was missing. He'll be back this week, so we should have a full squad this week, and that will change the entire look of our field.
Got it. So yeah, I don't know. It didn't feel like a vintage Hungry Hippos kind of performance, you know?
Yeah, there was a moment where I thought that we were gonna be back on track. When we
Mm-hmm.
came back and tied the game at 7.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, all right, this is okay. We got off to the rough start that we usually get off to, but now we're back 7-7. We're gonna win this game,
Mm-hmm.
and
That was
after
definitely
we
great
tied it,
content, so it worked for me.
yeah. After we tied it, that we let it go again. But it seems like we wake up a little bit late. We get into the field the first inning. We're a little bit too confident. Don't make the plays that we should make, and then get ourselves in a hole that
Yeah, you were in a
that
3-0
is
hole
tough.
right away. I mean, you came back, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't. Yeah, I mean, from an outside perspective, I wouldn't. I know Shlomo said he can't make excuses, but I can. And I wouldn't put too much stock into that game. It was a gloomy day. It was misty. It was rainy. They're missing a few guys. They're a little banged up. It's a third. Anytime you have like a 13-7, what was the final score on that? It was
Yeah,
13-8,
13-7.
13-7. I have a 13-7 game. It's not much about who outplayed the other, rather more about who outplayed themselves, at least in my opinion. So, I wouldn't think too much into the game. But then the day, the Black Sox got the dub. The Rides to Fly Black Sox got the dub over the Jewels by DK Hungry Hippos, two amazing sponsors of HSL. We just got another person to purchase a jewelry from Jewels by DK, who has the best jewelry at a price that he'll beat anyone else for the same exact quality. Shout out Jewels by DK. We appreciate you. You are the best. Anyways, like I said, from being there for most of the game before the rain started, and then I ran away like a little baby that I am as a commissioner. But making you guys play, of course. It seemed like it was dysfunctional on both sides. Like it didn't seem like it was super competitive. It seemed like everyone was all over the place. So I don't know. From my point of view, the bar wouldn't necessarily move based on that one individual game.
by the way, Avi, I have to give you a compliment while you're here, and Shlomo can weigh in on this also. That was amazing. That was our busiest schedule. We had 10 games played that day. Usually we have 10 in one, 8 in one division, 6 in the other. Usually it's 7 games, so we had 3 games more than usual. All 10 games were played on a very challenging rain day because it rained on Saturday, or it didn't end up raining Saturday, but it was raining on Friday. And then Sunday, there was just so much rain in the forecast. But there's I think people are on board. There's an expectation now. We are trying to get every game in. Not even, we didn't get one message it's supposed to pour today. I didn't. I don't know if you did, Avi. We didn't get one message, and then the heavens opened up with in the 8th inning. But that was pretty amazing, I thought, Avi. And I think that's thanks to your persistence and craziness at playing.
Yeah, it's really thanks to everyone at the HSL. Really, I mean, it's a full team job. 2 weeks ago we had people out on the field till 2 a.m. Working on the field so we could play. That wouldn't. I mean, that I don't know anyone else. I don't know anyone else that does that. It's pretty crazy. And from the moment we took over the league, we're a big believer in you got to do what you got to do to play softball. We're out here. We're men. We want to play. We don't. It's there's two ways of looking at it, and the way we look at it is every Sunday you are playing. The assumption is the game is always on. If there is some circumstances where for some reason it can't be on, it can't be on. But other than that, game is on. Whenever anybody messages me on Thursday asking me, "Oh, what do you think?" I respond 3 words: "Game is on." Every single time. You can ask anyone who messages me. People get frustrated by it, but that's the answer. The answer is the game is on, and if we have to cancel it, we'll cancel it. But if you don't come in with the assumption of game is on, to be honest, more likely than not, the game will somehow be off. Whether it's because the fields aren't playable or because people are complaining it's to be slippery, if you don't have the mentality games are on, games will end up being off most of the time. So I'm happy that we sort of incorporated that into the HSL, and hopefully it continues. Yeah, I'm
We're talking
happy kind of
Shlomo's
it's
ear
pretty.
off because he's like an HSL consultant. One other thing I want to say is that very underratedly, March baseball, as cold as it is I think it's a much drier month than April and May. Like every week now, we're having rain issues practically, but March was quite dry. The issue was not all the snow was melted yet, so we needed a turf
Ooh.
field. We needed turf fields because not all the snow was melted yet, but there was no rain any of those weekends or Sundays. Anyway, Shlomo, what do you have to say?
It was just brutally cold, and the ground. You, I made one dive in Inwood in March, and I caught the ball, and then I hit the ground, and the ball like bounced out of my glove. The ground was so hard. I like it was just not
I was
fun.
nervous. I was very nervous about Inwood because when Dom told me about the field, I went out to look at it. I think it was in like maybe January, mid-January. Of course, the HSL were always, working throughout the years, months. And I think it snowed like literally 2 or 3 weeks prior. And I get to the Inwood field, and it was fully covered in snow 3 weeks later. I'm like, how in the world? And ironically enough, after that rain 2 weeks ago, Inwood held up the best out of every field. So I don't know what it is. Maybe snow. Maybe it doesn't do well with snow, but it does well with rain. But I was like, okay, like this is not ideal at all. But we ended up using it as we've been using it as our quote unquote extra field, which we happen to use now almost
It's
every
on a
week because of.
it's an upgrade over Chestnut. I mean, I think yeah, games maybe should be scheduled on there instead of Chestnut next year.
I'm a little biased when it comes to it because our 2 losses came at Inwood, so not the biggest fan. But
Do you think it's because the mound is 1 foot shorter than?
so I've been hitting better at Inwood, but just as a team, we've been. I think it's the hard ground. The ground balls are quicker there. Also, and they bounce. I don't know
Hmm.
exactly how they bounce, but they bounce differently than, let's say, at Woodmere, where it's a softer infield.
That's a good question for Ariel Cohen. Is the hard ground the reason why snow sticks longer but rain dries up quicker?
I don't think so.
Meteorologist?
Yeah, that's a good
So would
question.
you say the Hippos are scuffling down the stretch here?
No, I think that we will be. I think I'll guarantee a win on Sunday.
Who are you guys
But
playing?
we're playing the Chihuahuas, so
It's
it's
a
a
Oh
tough
big
team.
game.
wow.
It's a tough team.
What
Yeah,
time? You guys are playing 10 o'clock, right?
yeah.
All right, good.
All 4 games in terms of
All right,
what
10.
the are.
Fantastic
Yeah,
for Avi Edelman HSL and content because I'm playing my 8 o'clock game versus the Robins. And then I'm ditching the game too, so that's great. Okay,
What are you
awesome.
doing for Mother's
yeah.
Day, Avi?
Question. Thankfully my wife actually works on Sundays, so it's actually worked out really well. It's a
Nice.
tough question. It's a good question. It's a good question. Listen, people on my team are giving me issues about making games on Mother's Day. They're like, "Wants to do my wife." I'm like, "Tell her that you'll be available from 1 to midnight." That's all. It's not about more than 11 hours with the person in one day. Come on, who are you kidding? You're not spending 11 hours or 13 hours or 14 hours. But I got lucky
Here,
with my
Sean
wife
Brooklyn
working
wants
all
to
the
know,
time.
Avi, which game are you getting content from this week?
Both 10 o'clock games I'll be at. I don't know who I'll be at first. I'm playing myself in West Hempstead. So where's your game, Shlomo, and where's Gershon's game?
So Gershon's
I don't know.
game's in Woodmere, and then ours is in Inwood. So
Oh,
it probably makes
perfect.
more sense to go to Woodmere
So,
first.
well, you also want the ending of your game, most likely.
I'm okay with either, but
No,
it's
so
just
the
on the
answer is
way.
I'll be at I'll be at each game for part of the time. Hopefully, it works out in a way where one game ends 25 minutes before the other, so I could scoot over and get the very end of the other game as well. But I have an 8:15 game against the Robins, which is a must win for us. If we win that game, we guarantee ourselves at least to get out of the playing game, and hopefully my team could hold off the Blue Owls without me. They should be able to, otherwise we don't deserve to be in the playoffs. I love you, Tuvia, and congrats on being the Robins last week. However, we don't deserve to be in the playoffs if we lose to the Blue Wahoos. Anyway, yeah. So after the Robins game is over, probably around 9:45, I'm gonna, head out to the two big
So
legacy
Shlomo,
games.
why are
So
you so confident you guys are going to beat Cobra this week?
I'm confident that we could beat any team as long as we play to our abilities. I don't think that any of our losses were because we were outplayed. As much as Joey Katz would say that he owns the Hippos, we beat
Would you
ourselves
say Joey
in all
Katz
those
is your
games.
daddy?
I wouldn't say that. Joey Katz would proclaim himself as the Hippos daddy on his own. I would disagree with that, but he did beat us, so I can't really talk too much. But I think we beat ourselves more than they beat us. They're a good team, but I think if we play to our abilities, then like I think we're the best team in the league.
woof,
Was that a
woof.
whoop or an
What a
oof?
bold
I think
statement
both
there.
were relevant.
That was it. That was an oof.
It was an oof. Okay.
I'm actually currently looking for a pen right now because being that I'm doing this podcast on my phone, I want to be able to write down the team names because I know the power rankings, but I don't have it in front of me, so I don't want to make a mistake. So if I see it visually, I'm able to write it down. Dave, continue. Ask another question. I'll be back in a second. Let me get a
Well,
pen.
let's get to this week. I mean, so that means if you win, you guys take the one
Wait, no,
seed.
don't talk about this, Dave. I want to be able to hear this. It's something I'm interested in. Delay for 12 seconds.
So what is he not interested in? Can you give us a sikha from the Rebbe?
Um, unfortunately, we could. He probably would also be interested in my league
All right, I'm
tier
back. I'm back.
Oh, your league tier
idea.
idea. Okay, so let's start there.
Okay.
I was schmoozing with Shlomo the other night, and he mentioned to me, "Oh, baby, that's for the power rankings."
This is actually for my own rehab facility, Glen Gariff Rehab Facility.
Mm.
Shout out to Yaakov Goldstein,
Are
who's the
they an
assistant.
official sponsor?
No, but Yaakov Goldstein is a player of the HSL, and he's also the assistant administrator. At least last time I checked, I think he's still there. Until I decided to be a crazy person and do HSL full time. However, this is my last job beforehand, so shout out to them as I'm using their pen.
So
Anyways, go ahead.
let's first get Shlomo's idea about the tiers in the divisions, the splitting up of tiers.
Uh, so I this came up because of how they I don't know the exact way that they're splitting up the Shul League this year, but I was told that the general idea, and came up with a way that might make sense for everyone to want to wake up on Sunday morning and play softball, but also by keeping it one league and one champion for the league. So instead of having just an A league and a B league, you end up having one league with three tiers, and you have the teams with the least wins
The Shul
are
League
the
is
least
doing that for the
competitive
record.
teams.
The Shul League is doing that.
So I don't know what they're doing exactly. They're changing something up, but so I don't know.
Interesting.
I'm not involved I'm not one of the captains of the Shul League. I just heard general ideas. But then this came from that general idea is to have the bottom tier of just the bottom tier of league teams in a league, and then you have a middle tier of like let's say let's say the bottom tier would be not to rip on like the grasshoppers, but let's say teams like the grasshoppers where they if they played an A League team right now, they probably would lose.
Even if Joey
Um,
Katz pitched.
I mean Joey Katz, great
I don't know.
pitcher,
Joey
but
Katz gave the Blue Wahoos a run for his money a run for their money in the playoff game last year. But no, I hear your point. I get your point.
but
Anyways, continue.
like a team like that where they would lose, but then you have let's say the Chihuahuas in tier B who they will most likely beat tier C team, but they also have a chance of beating a tier A team.
Right.
And so you only have the A tier play the B tier and the B tier play the C tier or within their own tiers. And then that way, if like the Hippos, where I think that we could beat any team if we play up to our abilities, then we have a chance to play against, let's say, the Robins or Gordon Company or something like that. But also, where they also have to play their like a pretty good game themselves. But if they make a couple of errors, then we will beat them. So it like adds competition, but also
But then what happens to the teams that'll be like, I'm never winning a championship? You know, that's unfortunately, that's not you, but unfortunately, most of our legacy league is we want to play in a league where we have a shot at winning the championship.
so the teams that would be in the C tier probably aren't going to win a championship anyway.
Well, listen, I don't want to be blunt, but let's say the Black Sox.
So yeah, like if
The
you
Blacks,
had
there's a lot of guys in the Black Sox that I love them as people, but unfortunately, and this is not including David, are scared. They're gonna claim it's not fun. They're gonna claim they don't want to do it. They're gonna claim they're too nervous. You know, they're
so
gonna claim
they
it's stupid. We don't have a chance to win the championship. Why would we do this?
so would the do you think that the Black Sox have a legitimate chance
Yes,
of
no, I
winning a
do.
championship?
That's why I pushed Shmuel Reda to bring a team to our A League and the Fall League, and it actually worked out very well as they made a big run. They can stay close to teams. They lost in the in the quarterfinals to us, in a solid tight game. But yes, the answer is I do. But the problem is the personnel don't.
So the thing with that is like if you have the Black Sox in let's say in C tier, and they win their division, right? They win their
Yeah.
tier, then they play in the same playoffs as
Right.
any team that makes the playoffs.
Right.
So then if they play up to their abilities and they actually could win a championship, then they'll beat the team that they play against in the B tier, and then they'll play against and like if they want to hang their hat on that they made it to a championship, great. But otherwise, play to your ability and beat the
Look,
best
Dave, you know
team.
what Shlomo Ross is doing now? What do we call this? What do we call this? What he's doing right now? What's he bringing
Small,
out right now? What's
small. Is it small burst energy or big burst?
No, it's the opposite. It's big burst energy.
Well, I
Shlomo's
wasn't sure you're
saying
going for it. Yeah. I understand.
what
I
Shlomo's
thought you
saying
were
right
just
now is
arguing. The reason I said that is because I thought you were arguing with his idea. Okay, yeah.
no. I'm not arguing. I said granted. I said what you're saying makes sense, and I actually think
Yeah, I like it too.
obviously there's a lot to iron out. But the one thing that I'm just pushing back on a little bit is not me. It's the unfortunate small burst energy that a lot of people give when it comes to having to deal with harder teams and having to go into the season knowing, oh, I'm probably not going to win the championship. It's not going to be fun for me. That's just one. Again, there could be other Nakudos also that aren't necessarily so simple with doing this. The one thing that jumped at me right away was this thing. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
But what Shlomo was trying to say is big burst energy is man the heck up. And yeah, you might, you're going to be playing teams that are somewhat equally competitive during the season. And in the playoffs, you might have to play teams a lot better and, man up, play a better game. And basically, it sounds like you're saying that, right, Shlomo?
Yeah, pretty much. Like when we had to play the Bombers when our team was terrible, that wasn't fun in the regular season because we weren't a good team. But if our team back then would have made the playoffs, at that point we have to face the best of the best. Like then it makes sense for us to have to play the Bombers and play the best teams.
Right.
So
I love that.
if we make the playoffs, then now you have to play for your championship. You don't just get a free championship because you were the best of the B League.
I like that. I like that vibe. It's like I said, we're dealing with a lot of personalities here, unfortunately, but that's a good perspective in my
Big
opinion.
burst
Dave, what do you think
energy.
of that?
It's big burst energy, and and like in this model, the tier 2. Let's say it was an 8-game season. How many games would they have against tier 1, and how many against tier C, and how many against tier 2?
So tier 2 would probably play the most even schedule.
Like 3,
They
3,
would probably
3,
have
something like that.
yeah, something like that.
And
And
tier
then tier 1 would play half versus their tier, and half against tier 2, and then the same thing on the other
right.
side. So you
So
would have
the
to figure out
amazing
the game.
right. So the amazing thing would be that, like, I don't know. I mean, like we talk about all the time. Where a tier 2 guy who's a little intimidated by tier 1 has 2-3 games against tier 1, and they're like, "Hey, I went 1 for 3 off pollen, and one of my hits was line drive into short center where the guy was positioned correctly. I could hit off this guy. Something like that, or he'll go over 4 with 4 strikeouts and never do it again. But it gives you exposure. Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. And there's some weeks where I think that we could maybe not necessarily beat the Bombers or a team of that caliber, but I think we could compete against them. And if everything goes right for us and some things go wrong for them, that we could beat them. But then there's also weeks where I think we're a C tier team and where we play terribly. So
Like last week.
yeah, exactly. So it's like this gives you the ability to push yourself.
It would be
to
pretty
do the
cool
best.
having a 14-team standings,
Right.
Wait, would it be that way? It would be 14-team standings, right? That's how it would work?
It
Or
would
no?
be
Or it'd be three separate
divisions.
Oh, it would be 3
3
divisions.
league,
Got it.
yeah.
Got it.
So you would have division winners.
Got it.
And then you would have to iron out how the playoffs would work in that situation. Like because
Right. I mean, there's only 3
wouldn't
divisions, and
necessarily
you
be-
need. Right.
Yeah.
All right. It's a cool concept.
All right, let's
Cool
get
concept.
to the. Yeah, it's a very cool concept. I think Ariel Cohen actually had something. Oh no, he once mentioned a theory like this.
No, but I think in his theory, his is the opposite. It was everyone plays each other during the regular season, but the playoffs get broken up into 3 different champions.
Oh, it is
It
three
was the exact
champions.
opposite. It was everyone plays each other during the regular season, but then you break it up into 3 brackets for the championship. Shlomo's saying is everyone's in the same bracket for the championship.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, reason being,
Um,
I'm not saying Ariel. We applaud Ariel for coming to the Titan League, but reason being because people want a chance to win the championships. Even though you're playing the teams during the regular season, you then have a good chance of winning a championship. Even though you're playing a team like the Bombers in the regular season.
yeah. While we're talking about all this, what about the idea of a forced relocation of a B League team to the A League for the next year? I know that's a different model, but just something I'm wondering about.
Slomo.
I if you think that a team should is good enough to be in the A League where they can compete, then you could put them in the A League. Like they should be in the A League then. You saw even with the Robins, where they may not necessarily be the best A League team, they're definitely not doing poorly in the A League.
No,
No.
they're doing
So
great. I brought up on our last podcast. They lost to the Bombers they had run on tying run at the plate. They lost to Gordon Company on a pop up by their catcher behind home plate. They beat us. They beat the Wahoos. They're right there. They're right there in the thick
You
of things.
just
They could
gotta
end up as a
pray.
2 seed if
You just gotta pray Ariel doesn't lose like 10-1 in the playoffs, because then he's going to be demanding to come back to the B League next year.
but I think they've proven over the course of an entire season that they belong in the A League. So if you lose even a big
And Ariel
loss in the
claims he's
playoffs,
missing half of his regular guys that he has that he has at night on Sunday mornings.
Also, no disrespect to like the Bombers and Gordon Companies. The Bombers for sure much older. Like Glenn is probably gonna. I think he watches most of the podcasts. I love Glenn. He's 55. Is he realistically going to be doing this at 60? And at 60, if Ariel still has Yehuda Nenner, the 2 Goldenbergs, he's got a lot
Erickson Flores.
those guys. I don't know how old is Erickson. I can't tell how old he is.
I don't know, but the guy looks like he's 25. It could be he's in his 30s.
In 5 years,
He's
these
in his
guys are
30s.
still going to be under 30. And Steve and Glenn are going to be 60. Maybe they'll still be just as unbelievable as they are today. But there's got to be some point at which you can topple them just because they're older, you know?
I'll never bet against Steve or Glenn.
I wouldn't either.
They've
I wouldn't either.
they've earned it.
Yeah, 100%. I would never bet against Glenn either. In fact, Glenn owns Avi Edelman. I think he went. I guess it was only 2 for 4, but
Glenn 1 for 4 off of me.
he
Ground
didn't
ball
go
short
one.
is considering
He wasn't 1 for 4.
ground ball short is an error. He's considering a ground ball short as a hit. It's an error. It's not a
He
hit.
said. So Glenn replied, "Just because you scream at your shortstop after the play doesn't make it an error, Avi."
It was right at him, and if it was the HSL league, we'd have it on video to prove it. But unfortunately, it wasn't, so we don't have highlights of the play.
All right,
but listen,
so
Glenn's been struggling. Glenn's been struggling off me. He went 1 for 3 or 1 for 4 also at opening day. I think when we beat the Bombers. I think that's 2 for 8 if you do the
All right,
correct math.
I have 2 things to clip. I'm going to clip that, and I'm going to clip Shlomo talking about Annie's Kitchen going to Tier 3 next season.
I love the Annie's Kitchen guys.
You love what?
I love them. They're great guys.
Let's get into the playoff scenarios.
Yeah,
I
let's
wanna
go,
get into
because
the
I gotta
playoff
go soon.
scenarios.
My son's coming home from school, and I gotta take care of him. Oh, wow. Avram Tzvi Keen messaged me. I don't know Zin personally, but I've watched some M&S and YMSL game, and I've seen so many stupid errors get made. It's pretty funny.
Albert Shaquem, by the way, who's going to be hopefully bringing a summer team. We're very on. He tells me he has 7 or 8 guys that are maybes. So
Wow.
I said that's a good start.
Oh, you know what? Fine, let's do scenarios, and then I want to talk to Shlomo about the Shul League. So yeah, let's do scenarios. Shlomo, can you
and power rankings? This is I gotta do.
Oh wait, so what order do you want to go?
First scenarios.
Okay. Scenarios. Shlomo, take it away.
So scenarios. I probably should have written this down beforehand so that I would have it. But basically, if the Hippos win, then they're either the 1 or 2 seed. It really depends on what happens in the Black Sox game. So if the Black Sox lose, then Fireballs are the number 1 seed.
Automatically?
If the Hippos win. If the Hippos and the Fireballs win, then the rankings would be Fireballs, Hippos, Chihuahuas, Black Sox.
So the Fireballs are rooting for you guys this week.
Yes. Yeah, this is if we lose, then the Chihuahuas are 1.
It's a lot on the
If
line.
the Chihuahuas beat, if Colbarato wins, they clinch the 1 seed.
Yeah.
Simple as
There's a
that.
lot on the line.
So because of how the tiebreakers work, they beat the Black Sox twice. They'll be the 1 seed. So the Fireballs need us to win in order to be the 1 seed. If the Fireballs and Chihuahuas win, then it's Chihuahuas and then Fireballs 1 and 2, and then Black Sox would be 3, and the Hippos would be 4.
Gershon says we are the 1 seed if we win, no matter what.
Ooh.
That's
Well, we're gonna have to have someone write this out because
okay,
when I'm going to the highlights on
the
Sunday, I need to know what I'm dealing with.
Fireballs win, then I'll tell you in a second. So if so Gershom's right. The Fireballs win, they'd be 2 and 1 again in those games. So they would be the 1 seed.
Wow.
So I wrote it all out in the WhatsApp, but I can't go to it now.
Oh, so you have to redo it now?
No, so it's in our WhatsApp
The
chat.
point is,
Oh, it is? Okay,
didn't have it. He thought it all through, but he's going from memory now.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, because I want to be able to have something on me when I go to the games to be able to know what's happening where, and I'm gonna have my guy. We still have to get a guy to get team pictures, Dave. If we don't get a guy, you know what I'm gonna have to do? I'm gonna have to have the captain of every team making sure that someone gets a team picture of them because it needs to be done. This is an actual necessity.
What
Too bad
about
S and Poppers he miss.
what's Ezra Kolsky up to?
He's setting up fields for us.
All right, let's talk about the Shul League, and then we'll do the power rankings, and then I got to go. Let's talk about the Shul League quickly. Shlomo, is there a mystique to the Shul League? Is there a love affair? Is there a romance with the Shul League that people have?
Yes. The Shul League has been around for a really long time. I feel like back before I was even in high school. Started off with 8 teams. Now it's a much bigger league. I think they're having 16 teams, something like that, 14 to 16 teams. People originally were just playing for their shuls, and that caused there to be a lot of parity in the league. Every team had a chance to win the championship. Every game was pretty
What
close.
year are you talking? What year are you talking?
So Chabad had a team from, I want to say, 2008 probably, or 2009 through 2019.
And if you had to guess what year the Shul League started, what year would you say?
I would say probably 2007.
Okay.
So Chabad had so probably since 2007. Chabad
And who founded it?
So it started off with, can't remember his name. He used to live in North Woodmere. Ellie something. Ellie Dworsky or something like that.
Okay.
He started it, had it. I think he ran it for 3 years, and then Gordon Sitzel took it over for the next 15 years, and now Jordan's running it.
Jordan Hiller, right?
So just like Koenig was at first was pitching for Beth Shalom, and then he moved over to Woodmere, Young Israel Woodmere. Chabad had Avram Schreiber pitch for us for a bunch of years, and then Zach Hatton took over for us. It was just guys playing for their shuls for the most part, and there was just the team that stayed together the best over the years probably would be Edwards. It started with the Offmans being 14 to 16 years old, and then still playing with their dad till this day. Jack Ross was playing at a super young age with his dad, still on the team. Their captain Jay, guy who davens in their shul, he's been running the team since the beginning. So it's just a fun way to play softball with the guys from your shuls, but also the competition. At least back in the back when Chabad had a team originally, just it was a good competitive league. I think it was the most balanced league that I've played in. Then over recent years, I think some teams have become a little bit more stacked. I think they're trying to get back to the roots of being part of your own shul, but for the most part, it's still very competitive.
And it's 2-tiered.
So it started. So originally it was one.
It was 1 tier, but it was competitive because you had
Yeah.
Schlecht on every team. So
yeah, and then it turned into 2 tiers, and then now they're trying to get back to the original.
But I hear Jordan Hiller is making Aliyah.
So I didn't hear about that. I would have to talk to him about his Mets season ticket plan because that's where I see him the most.
Wait, that's funny because I got really. It was 35 degrees and I ran into him. in like really good seats. Is that where season tickets are on that level?
Very possible. I think right behind the away dugout.
Oh, okay. And that's where you have seats also, Shlomo?
Mine are in the upper deck, but behind home plate.
Okay, so
The
sort of the same,
400s.
sort of the same location, right?
Sort of the same. It's a great view. You for the price of the ticket to the view, I
I
think
just
it's the
went to a
best.
game with Avi, and I was telling him that 300s behind home plate, not 400s, but even
Yeah.
400s. If you're, especially if you're in the, yeah, I prefer
I,
to like down the first or third baseline.
yeah. You like I am as center to the pitcher as you could get in the 400s.
Yeah, so I heard Jordan's moving. So Shlomo, maybe you could become the commissioner of the Shul League.
I think it's a lot of work. I just see the amount of complaints that you guys get in the captain's chat. I'm just like, I'll chime in when I want to.
Um, okay, let's get to. Sorry, Glenn keeps messaging me. He wants the Nenner podcast, which I didn't put out yet. So the Shul League, I had more to pick your brain about it. There's a mystique and a romance, and it's very cheap,
Yes.
which
I don't know
people
how
like.
it's so cheap.
No, so I found out how it's
I,
so cheap. The fields are free, which is like 40% of our cost because they're a nonprofit. Even in Queens, you can get fields for free if you're a nonprofit. So they get it based on a nonprofit basis. They also don't have jerseys, right, or trophies. So all these little things add up. They have one big trophy, yeah,
we have one trophy, yeah.
yeah. So all these little things add up. Um, but I think that's a difference because you were asking me earlier in the year, like, why is this 3 times the price of the Shul League? Or I don't know, three
Yeah.
times the price, but what do they charge per team?
So I think it's 1,100 for the team.
Okay, so we're
That's
double.
like double.
So,
Yeah.
So it's double, but that makes sense if the fields are free. And you know what? That's actually, and there are no jerseys. That I would have. That's actually our price is actually not bad considering that.
so so this is definitely the most expensive league that I've played in. So and that's without lights. So I'm not trying to knock the price of the league. I'm happy to.
What do you mean the night leagues are much more expensive than us? With
Right,
lights.
night leagues are because you have to pay for the lights. So
No,
it
I'm
makes
saying.
sense if
Oh, meaning it's the most expensive league that doesn't have lights. What you're saying?
yeah.
Oh, okay, got
So
it.
like there was a league that I was playing in where I met where I became friends with like Easy and Jason who are on our team and like that Malik brought me into. And that one it was like $150 per
How long
person.
ago?
This was 2 years ago.
Okay, Queens
So
doubled their fields over the last year. Our jerseys just went up by 25%. The inflation is so crazy that certain court costs have gone up by 100%, even in the last 2 years.
And
So
listen, I'll say something also that's controversial, just to defend the prices a little bit, because I think it's very it should be questioned for sure. I don't blame people for asking. Money is financially,
especially Jewish players.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what I'll say is that in life, when you receive a product, you receive um
Service.
a pair of Reebok, a pair of Reebok shoes versus a pair of Gucci shoes, right? The Gucci shoes are going to cost more. And it might sound funny, but it's true. HSL, we put in a ton of work into this. It's not just, you're showing up playing softball and going home. We have these podcasts. We do the highlights, the videos, the highlight reels at times. A lot, getting people out at midnight to make sure fields are good to go. There's a lot of work. So along with the package comes in. We don't force anyone to play. Like if people feel like really it's too much, they can either come over to us and discuss it privately, or there are other options in the area. Actually, I don't even out in the spring there aren't, but in general there are other options, and we don't force anybody. So that's the basic route. Other than the fact that things also, expenses in general shot up like crazy, which is a huge part of that. But yeah, that's the basic answer. And again, I always tell captains or people reach out to me. I say I always respect you reaching out. I appreciate it. I want that. It means that we have a good communication and you're able to talk and reach out and not just either say, who cares, or I'm leaving this league. You actually reach out to me and speak to me about it. So happy about that, but that's a little bit of the explanation. Well, should we get to the power rankings now?
Yeah, let's get the power rankings because I gotta go. I'm overtime here. Let's do it.
All right.
Two long
So let's go through the
podcasts today.
power
We're
rankings.
at 41 minutes already, and we did 51, I think, with Nenner. So let's try to do this in less than 5 minutes because I gotta go.
All right, we could do this. All right, so the first
They're
few
two guys easy to schmooze with, Nenner and Shlomo. It's
so the first the first couple teams here aren't so controversial. At number 8, you have the Margaret Tietz Rehabilitation Center. Before we get into the team, I want to just thank obviously all the people there at the nursing rehab facility for sponsoring an adult team and a youth team. We really appreciate that, and we'll make sure to send over some nice clips and picture of the team, um, assuming they show up to see what they should. And we really appreciate their sponsorship. Margaret Teats are a bunch of really, really good guys, and they have a couple of really good pieces, but they unfortunately couldn't put it together fully and didn't get a win on the season. Not yet. They have one game left, so we'll see what happens. But they come in at 8. Coming in at 7 is a team that we were talking about earlier, Essen Poppers. And again, shout out to Essen for sponsoring that team, and we appreciate you. And it is probably my favorite Heimische restaurant in Brooklyn by far. Like it's
Me and Avi
unbelievable.
had a
It's not
field
normal.
trip there once. It's
Yeah, it's
very delicious.
unbelievable. It's amazing. Essen's the best. Their poppers, they're to die for. Anyways, so Essen, came with a solid team. I think I had them at 5 in the power rankings coming to the season, and we discussed earlier they couldn't put it together. A couple of their outfielders just didn't come in as planned. A couple of their regulars ended up becoming non regulars. They claim they're a warm weather team, and I don't think they've played a game yet in above 60-degree weather, so maybe that's an excuse for them. But at the end of the day, they only have one win. They are eliminated from the playoffs, and they'll come in at 7. Feel free to jump in, and guys. By the way, I'm just going through my logic and my reasoning quickly. Coming in at 6, and I think also not a shocker, is addictive ads. Obviously they started the season extremely poorly. We thought it would be a repeat of an addictive ads team that we've seen before. They did recover and win enough games to make it into the playoffs. And listen, you never know with Jake Byrne. You never know what he can pull out of his hat, right? With personnel.
I would say they're a sleeper team because they have a couple. There's somebody in my community, Moshe Kaplan, who's playing the last 2 games for them and coming in as a sleeper on an injury. He's coming in under the special exemption because they had
Injury exemption.
injury.
Yeah. 2-game injury exemption.
I was friends with the original third baseman, a good friend of mine, Aaron Fishkind, but it seems like Moshe Kaplan, who's also a good friend of mine, is a major upgrade. I'm a big believer that there's really only 3 positions on a softball diamond, maybe 4: shortstop, third base, center field, maybe left field. Of course, every position plays a role and to get to the next level. But if you lock down those 3-4 positions, you're good. So he played 1 or 2 games so far, and he was really good at their base. And they also have this other guy, Ethan Schulman, who's schlepping in from the Upper West Side, who got
Who are they
playoff.
playing this week?
I don't know, but they're in the playoffs already.
Probably Margaret
Teats.
It doesn't really matter because whoever they're going to be playing in the first, they're going to be the 5 or the 6 seed. Whoever they're playing in the first round is going to be the favorite by a lot because it's addictive ads. But I'm just saying,
right. And we'll go through that next week. We'll go through all the matchups. We'll do lines and make it fun. But anyway, so like I said, never count out a Jacob Byrne team. Shout out, of course, to Addictive Ads, an amazing HL sponsor with us from the beginning. I think just today they released Addictive Ad. What's it called again? Their new company. It looks really cool.
Addictive Research, I think.
Addictive Research,
or
really
Addictive
really cool.
Affiliates? I don't know.
Addictive Affiliates, that's what it was. Yeah. Shout out to the affiliates. You want to say something, Shlomo?
Just to give a shout out. So there's obviously the Steve Pollins of the world who are great pitchers, but I just want to. I think there should be a Mikey Weiss Award, which is the best, just not necessarily the best pitcher, but just a pitcher who's consistently good, and as long as he has good defense, he doesn't walk anybody. So
I was about to say that,
guys who just
Shlomo.
throw strikes.
Stole it out of my mouth. I was about to say the last thing I was going to say about Addictive Ads is that with a pitcher like Mikey Weiss, he will never ever lose you a game. And you don't find out there are a lot of pitchers that will lose you games. Mikey Weiss will never lose you a game. He doesn't walk guys, throw strikes. He'll always keep you in the game. He might not always win you games. He will never lose you a game. It's a huge strength of a pitcher. Exactly, you stole it out of my mouth, so I'm happy you brought that up. And Mikey's also one of the personalities of HSL and one of my biggest. I'm a huge fan of him. He's an awesome dude. Who knows how to mesh competitiveness and fun and chilledness on the field, which I don't know how to do. So anyone who does, I give them a big shout out. So I appreciate Mikey for that. Okay, so we have 5 slots remaining. Here's where things get a little bit tricky. I personally don't think it's tricky at all. I think it's obvious we should go 5. I'm putting at 5 the Annie's Kitchen Grasshoppers. I think that is a very obvious spot to put them. They've been very mediocre throughout the season. I'm not sure what the record is now. What are they 3-4? Is that what they are right now? Or I think they're 3-4. They're mediocre. They did have a big surprising win, which Joey Katz would not say surprising, over the Hungry Hippos, which then Joey Katz was like, "How can the Hippos be ahead of us in the power rankings if we beat them?" The answer is because you guys also lost a bunch of really not such good looking games. So I think 5 is a good spot. They're a very mediocre team. I'm not saying they can't make a run in the playoffs. I think they could, but I don't think they're better than any of the 4 teams. Now here's the top 4. Here's where things get a little tricky, and here's where I'm gonna bump my chest out a little bit. I came into the season, and we'll get to it in a minute, but I came into the season with a specific number 2 in the power rankings. I took a lot of heat for that. A lot of heat, and I'm very confident that I was very accurate in my number 2. So let's start at number 4. Number 4 in the power rankings are the MS Motor Fireballs, and here's the reason. I believe MS Motors is a better team than the Jules by DK Hungry Hippos. I believe they are, in my opinion, my humble opinion. MS Motors lost not only their best player, but in my opinion, the best hitter in the Legacy League, in Yashol Muscat. It is a huge loss that I think, even though they're getting somebody to be eligible instead of him, it's a huge loss that I think will actually really hurt MS Motors. He's their heart and soul of their batting order. He hits the ball 120. He's like the Glenn Zuckerman of the B League, of the Legacy League. It's not a joke. The guy's a fantastic hitter. He's also a great fielder, and I think that's the sole reason why I'm putting them at 4. I think they have a shot at winning the championship. Like I said, they win this week to get the 1 seed. I think they still could win. However, that is a huge loss that I think will really, really impact them. I know softball's not a one-person game, but he is the heart and soul. He's the Juan Soto of the MS Motor Fireballs, in my opinion, and or the Aaron Judge, of the MS Motor. So he's that's a big fall. So we get to the top 3, and here's my chest pumped out a little bit. I watched a lot of the Legacy games. I actually probably videoed more Legacy than Titan. I think other than the 2 Bombers versus Gordon Company matchups, I don't think I've done much of any videoing for Titan. Maybe I did the Robins Gordon Company matchup. I think number 3 is the Jules by DK Hungry Hippos. They started off really hot. They had a couple games where they just did not play well at all. One versus Joey Katz, one versus the Black Sox last week. I didn't see the consistency. I think they're a really good team, a team that, again, with the regular team could also definitely win a championship, and I would not be shocked whatsoever. However, at number 2, I'm going to put my chest for this, I came into the season with the Rides to Fly Black Sox at number 2, and I got so much hate from all over the league. How can you do that with the Black Sox number 2? Are you kidding me? You go look back at the first podcast that we did with the power rankings. I'm proud to say that I think I made a good call. Shmuel Reda, year after year, brings really competitive teams. They started off, I think you guys lost the first game, maybe went 1-2 to start the season. Right now, with a win this week, what are you going to finish? 6? Is it 6-2? You're going to finish with a win this week?
Yes, that's right.
It would be 6-2. The Rides to Fly Black Sox, in my opinion.
Sorry, I'm busy chatting with Shlomo and Brookler on the chat function.
No problem.
We'll be 6-2, and I'm not going to be playing this Sunday, unfortunately, because I'm celebrating Mother's Day. But I might bring my son there and let her sleep in, something like that.
The Rides to Fly Black Sox, in my opinion, are the team to beat outside of the number 1 seed. Their team has come together extremely nicely. Their pitching combination between Adelson and
Sendy Berger. Sendy Berger's an A-League pitcher.
And Sendy Berger is phenomenal. Their infield is tremendous. Their outfield is tremendous. The speed on their team is tremendous. I am proud to say that, in my opinion, my prediction of the Rides to Fly Black Sox, number 2 in the power rankings. And Shlomo, you could talk. I want to finish the power rankings.
I gotta go. Can we wrap this up over here? We get it. You're our daddy.
Number one, Cobra Rental Chihuahuas. Number 1, I still think they have the most experience and the most talent straight up. Shlomo, make a comment and then we'll wrap it up.
So I disagree about the Black Sox being number 2. Like I said, I don't think they really beat us on Sunday. I think we beat ourselves. I think David would agree with that. There wasn't anything that happened in that game where it was like they were a better team than the Hippos. I think the biggest knock against the Hippos is that we just don't wake up for games sometimes and we don't play up to our abilities, which is a legitimate knock. But
especially in the playoffs.
Yeah, but hopefully we wake up for the playoffs. But I think that's the biggest disagreement that I would have is that I don't think that if you're gonna go based off of consistency and things like that, there wasn't anything that the Black Sox did to be better than the Hippos.
Right. Well, let's see how people respond. We have the Cobra Rentals at 1, Black Sox at 2, Jules by DK Hungry Hippos at 3, and the MS Motor Fireballs at 4, Annie's Kitchen at 5, and then the rest. So let's see how they respond. What? Let's see how people respond to it. That's my take on it. And it should be a very fun last week in both the Titan and Legacy League.
Shlomo, are you a betting man? Meaning, do you bet on sports? You know about betting lines, that kind of thing?
I know about them. I don't bet because I would lose all my money.
Okay, what would you put the Hippos line at to take the crown?
So plus is that they're gonna.
Yeah, but one thing which we learned today on the Nenner podcast is that before the playoffs, you still have 3 games to win. the Chiefs before the whole playoffs this year were like a plus 150, something like that. So even the team that's favored, you're going to get a lot of money if they win because it's just hard to win, as you saw with the Chiefs. It's hard to win against the best teams. So I would say your starting point would be, let's call it plus 150 if you thought you guys were like the absolute favorites to win the championship. And addictive ads would probably be like a plus 900, maybe even a little, I don't know.
Yeah, so I would probably say a plus 250.
Wow.
I expect us to win the championship.
Wow. Brookler's taking another L. Brookler's taking L after L today.
Eating L's.
He ate an L. He ate a big L at the Padres game last night.
He did. I was hoping after they saw the Padres beat the Yankees in that horrendous game, I was very happy the Yankees came back and beat his Padres last night. I got a little bit of nachas inside of me.
Yeah. All right, I got to go, gentlemen. Shlomo, it's always a pleasure. We beat the Nenner podcast by about a minute and about 2
Thank
minutes.
You, Shlomo. We're looking forward. A lot of moving pieces for this final week. I'm pumped. I'm excited.
I'm looking forward to my Smash House dinner for winning a championship.
Yeah, that's a really fun perk.
It is, of course. And also, it's good content. We get to, and also it incentivizes teams to actually celebrate. I feel like a lot of teams win championships. They're like, oh, well, let's do this date, that, and everyone's working out. Now you got a little incentive to work it out. You got free catered food by Smash House.
I'm looking forward to it.
All right, I'll have to catch up on. That's all David's fault. I wasn't there on Tuesday. All right, bye. Take care, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Shlomo, you're on your